Hello and welcome to Wasted Plotential, where we discuss the wasted potential of our favourite plotlines. Resident Evil 3 and its remake have two very different takes on the STARS Alpha team's cowardly pilot, Brad Vickers. While he never appeared on screen, Brad debuted in Resident Evil 1 as the helicopter pilot who abandons Alpha team when they get attacked by dogs in the forest. He returns at the end to provide the team with a rocket launcher with which they destroy the Tyrant. Although you'd only know it was him if you'd seen his concept art or read about it in a magazine or strategy guide, Brad appears in the second game under certain conditions as a zombie in the underground walkway below the RPD's front entrance. In Resident Evil 3, which begins before Resi 2, Brad and Jill are the only STARS members left in Raccoon City during the outbreak. Brad is already being pursued by Nemesis by the time Jill finds him. In fact, Jill's first encounter with the creature is when it ambushes her and Brad at the front of the RPD and impales Brad with a tentacle, killing and infecting him. The remake has a very different depiction of events. For one, Brad is a lot less cowardly. He's got a much firmer head on his shoulders as he escorts the winded Jill through the streets. He helps her to hold back some zombies but gets bitten and forces her to leave him while he holds them off. He then appears at the RPD and bites Marvin before being put down by Carlos. I think both versions have elements that benefit the story overall that the other lacks. The original uses Brad as a jobber to establish Nemesis as a threat. He is easily the least significant of the 5 surviving STARS members. He's just relevant enough for his death to mean something, but not so much so that very much is lost with his death. He serves to display what the titular threat is capable of and why Jill should be wary of it. His cowardice, while true to his original portrayal, makes him kinda pathetic and doesn't leave the player feeling much for his death beyond maybe pity. The remake opted to make him more heroic, giving his life to save one of those he abandoned back in July, finally finding redemption for his prior cowardice. However, he never once encounters Nemesis, leaving Umbrella's ultimate BOW's body count pathetically low. Unnamed civilians don't count. But we could take elements from both to give Brad's death the meaning both versions attribute to it. In fact, this can be done with both scenarios we've been given thus far. If he dies at the RPD, Jill catches up to Brad, who has found a good hiding spot. Nemesis then arrives and, having lost sight of Brad, turns its attention to Jill, who is swiftly disarmed and at the creature's mercy. Not willing to endanger Jill a second time, Brad comes out of hiding and attacks the creature. Prioritizing the target that is an active threat, Nemesis easily dispatches Brad, who has bought Jill enough time to rearm herself and possibly get inside, allowing her to continue on and eventually avenge him. If he dies in the bar, the scenario is a bit different. Rather than being bitten, Brad and Jill are able to keep the door closed and start to barricade it. However, Nemesis has now caught up to them in its pursuit of Jill and bashes the door open, sending them both reeling. Since she is still the active target, Nemesis bursts down on the still winded Jill. Brad diverts his attention from the zombie stragglers to attack Nemesis, who again turns its attention towards Brad and quickly dispatches him, buying Jill time to run. Maybe the pistol Jill obtains here is not from a dead cop in the alleyway, but from Brad as he dies. This could set up a moment later on where she ends a Nemesis fight with Brad's pistol as she does with the Magnum in the original. There'd probably be a trophy for doing that as well. With either of these scenarios, Brad Vickers achieves redemption for his cowardice back in July by sacrificing his life to save one of those he abandoned at the cost of his own life at the hand of Nemesis, who now only has one target left to pursue: Jill. But Brad's sacrifice buys Jill a chance to escape, which she uses to survive the outbreak and avenge Brad's death in the end. This gives his story a nice heroic conclusion and also serves to express how serious a threat Nemesis is if it gets its hands on Jill. If you want to see what one of these scenarios might look like in greater depth, I'm also releasing a new chapter of Re-Enter the Survival Horror alongside this video based on the RPD scenario. Links in the description. As with most things from 3, the remake could have done something really good with this moment if it hadn't been half-assedly rushing through plot points from the original as if they were only included because fans expected them to be there. If you liked this video, why not subscribe and support me on Patreon like these fine people here? If not, then make sure to share it with your enemies so they can get hurriedly infected and abandoned by their friends. Today's recommended video is Resident Evil 3 Remake First Nemesis Fight Reimagined by I'm a Broccoli. Made in the RE2 remake, this video aims to show what the first encounter with Nemesis might look like in 3 make. Sadly, we got the much lamer apartment building chase instead.